Hi guys, thank you all for tuning in and welcome back to Sewing Lara. Today I have for you another underpants tutorial. If you have missed my previous panties tutorials, I will link them all down below in the video description. And today we're gonna be using a super versatile sewing pattern. With this sewing pattern you can make either section panties, like for example these, or you can make panties that have the front and back part made of just one piece. And the sewing pattern gives you another option. You can always add a waistband to either of the two versions, which will make the panties a little bit higher. And of course you can always adjust the height of the waistband according to your personal preference. And on the top of that, I will also show you how you can turn these very easily into period pants for the lighter days. So if you want to know how to do that, then please keep watching. The material that I have used for my panties was bi-elastic jersey with 8% spandex. I definitely recommend using a jersey that is stretchy both horizontally and vertically, and it should have at least 5% spandex. That's, in my opinion, the best for underpants. The sewing pattern is available on my homepage for a very affordable price. It comes as a package with multiple sizes and with a pattern overview and the approximate yardage. First, let's have a look at the sewing pattern that we're going to be working with today. So I have here all the pattern pieces. Some of these pieces are just pattern halves, and some of these pieces are full pattern parts. So the front side part and the back side part are full pattern pieces. And the rest, the front part, the back part, the gusset and the waistband are just pattern halves, which means you will have to position them on folded fabric. So for the front part, the fold will be aligned with this line. For the back part, this line of the gusset needs to be aligned with the fabric fold, and one of these sides of the waistband will be aligned with the fabric fold. The way the labels are positioned on the pattern pieces should help you to determine whether your pattern parts are upright or not. So it's pretty easy. If the letters are upright, then the pattern piece is also upright. And this is how you align these pieces. So this goes over here, and the side part goes over here. And then we have here the gusset. The gusset goes over the front part. I already mentioned that this pattern is pretty versatile. You can use it for either section panties or for panties that are made of full pieces. So if you don't want to make the panties sectioned, here's what you have to do. So here on the side part, you have this line for the seam allowance, and that needs to be aligned with this very edge, like so, see? So I'm gonna align these pieces like so, and that will give me a whole pattern part. Same goes for the side part. So this line on the side part needs to be aligned with the outer edge of the front part. And if I do that, I'll have a full pattern part for, like, pattern half for the front part. The pattern for the waistband has been designed according to a certain width of the elastic band. All is written in the pattern overview. So let's say your elastic band that you have at home is not as wide, and it is 1 centimeter less wide than what the pattern says. All you have to do is to fold one of the long edges by 1 centimeter, and vice versa. If you have an elastic band that's 1 centimeter wider, all you have to do is to add 1 centimeter on one side along this long edge, make it a little bit wider, and then it will work. Let's start with the version made of full pieces with a waistband. Here we have the back part, the front part, the gusset, and the waistband. Furthermore, I have here an elastic band for the waistband and an elastic band for the edges. This piece is optional. I will use a second gusset cut out of elastic terry cloth with a polyurethane layer on one side for the period option. For this option, I pinched together both gusset layers on the top. The polyurethane layer must be inside. Skip this and the following step if you are using just one layer for the gusset. I have sewn the layers together with straight stitch. Since now the gusset was considerably thicker, I cut back the seam allowance around the side edges. I find it easier to work with. I turned the gusset to the right side, so the polyurethane layer was on the outside now. Again, skip this step if you're using just one layer for the gusset. Next, I put together the back and the front part, wrong sides facing up, right sides inside. I turned my work around so that the back part would be on the top, and I placed the gusset on the back part. The polyurethane layer was facing up. I pinned all together. I have sewn all pieces together with straight stitch. And then I folded the gusset towards the front part and I have pinned it in place for the time being. I pinned together the sides of the panties. And the ends of the waistband. I have sewn all together with stretchy overlock stitch. As a next step, I pinned the seams on the sides of the panties to one side and I have sewn through with straight stitch. And then I started pinning the waistband to the panties. I aligned the seam of the waistband with one of the side seams. You can also center the seam of the waistband on the back part, whatever works for you better. I also pinned the ends of the elastic band together. I have sewn the waistband on the panties with stretchy overlock stitch. I used zigzag for the elastic band. I grabbed the thin elastic band and started folding the edge of the panties over it and pinning it in place. You want to very slightly pull on the elastic band to stretch it, ever so slightly. It will help to keep the shape of the edge later, once you have sewn everything in place. I have used my cover lock machine for sewing through the edge, but you can use simply stretchy zigzag. That works great too. Next, I pinned the elastic band on the right side of the waistband. I have sewn it on with stretchy overlock stitch. And then I folded it inwards and placed it over the waistband seam. I used again my cover lock to sew it in place. The alternative stitch on a household machine would be again stretchy zigzag. And then my panties were done. Here we have all pieces for the sectioned version. The center parts are still folded in the middle, so this is laid out just like the sewing pattern looks like. First, I unfolded the front part and pinned the side pieces to the front part. Then I pinned the back side pieces to the unfolded back part. I have sewn through with stretchy overlock stitch. Next, I folded the seams to one side and I have pinned them in place. I have sewn through with coverlock stitch. Alternatively, you could use either stretchy straight stitch or stretchy zigzag. So now I had 2 whole pieces for the panties, and I continued just like we did with the first version, so I'll skip a few steps that would be otherwise repetitive. When the main parts were sewn together and the sides were edged with the thin elastic band, I used the same elastic band for the upper edge instead of the waistband. I have sewn through the upper edge with coverlock stitch. Again, an alternative would be stretchy zigzag here. And then my section panties were done. I have here 2 more panties that I made with the same sewing pattern, just to give you additional ideas how you can design your own panties. So when I made these, I wanted to have the back made of one whole piece and I wanted to have the front sectioned. I edged these with the thin elastic band, both on the sides and on the top. I used stretchy zigzag because back then I still didn't have my coverlock machine, but it really worked great. I love stretchy zigzag for this type of projects. And here we have the gusset. So this is just one layer. I did not cut back the seam allowance because the fabric is actually quite thin. When I have sewn together the gusset with the back part and the front part, I simply folded it over towards the front part and I didn't do anything on these panties to the gusset. So this is just the raw edge, but it didn't fray out, and I've been wearing these panties for about 3 years. So a stretchy jersey does not necessarily be edged here on this end on the gusset. So that's the one version. Now these panties are made of both sectioned back and sectioned front part, pretty much like the section panties we made today, with one exception. I didn't use elastic band around these edges. Instead of that, I have sewn on stretchy lace. So when I was pinning the lace in, I made sure I was stretching it out ever so slightly so that the edges would keep their shape once the panties were done. And there is one more thing you have to keep in mind. So the sewing pattern comes with seam allowance. So that means this edge is not the edge of the finished product. The edge of the finished product is here where I have the green line. So when you sew on lace like this, and that's gonna surpass the edge, you're basically adding that much to the edge. So if it doesn't bother you that the panties will be a little bit wider, you can leave it like that. But if you want to have exactly the size of the panties that the pattern intended to create, you have to cut back about that much around the edges before you sew on the elastic lace. And what I did to the gusset here was, when I folded it over after it's been sewn on, I have folded the edge a little bit in and I have sewn through the edge with stretchy zigzag. And here is what it looks like from the inside. So it's a nice clean edge. When I turn it to the right side of the panties, here we have the seam. I used stretchy zigzag and I used black thread, and it kind of disappears in the print on the fabric. Just to compare it with the other panties where we have a raw edge. So of course this is nicer, but to be honest, this doesn't bother me at all because it doesn't fray out and it's on the inside. So you can decide whatever you prefer for yourself. And since we're talking about the gusset, again, if you feel like you would rather have a thinner layer to work with, you can always cut back here a little bit on the side. That's enough. That's about how much you will be folding the fabric over the elastic band. It's up to you. I have worked with both, with the full-size gusset and with the gusset that's been cut back, and I made it always work. But again, that's all about your personal preference, as I always say. Alright, so that's how I made these panties. I personally really love this style, especially in the summer underneath skirts, because then it doesn't feel so naked like it would if I'd be wearing my Brazil pants. I personally prefer wearing my Brazil panties just underneath anything that's like pants, you know, leggings, shorts, or jeans. And now let's talk shortly about the option to turn your undies into period panties. So let me tell you, this stretchy terry cloth with the thin layer of polyurethane on one side is truly such an amazing material, and it just works so great. And the good thing is you can use it with pretty much any sewing pattern for panties as long as they have a gusset. So for example, last year I posted here a tutorial for Brazil panties. You can add the rubberized terry cloth to that too, and you'll end up having period Brazil panties. So I have now a few, and I'm wearing them even for my boxing training, and nothing comes through. Everything is perfectly protected. I tested them even on the little heavier days. I will say on the heavier days I would switch pants at least twice a day, because other than that it would not feel comfortable, and it might not be enough because the jersey that goes over the terry cloth would probably at some point not be able to absorb anything else. But on the medium to lighter days, that's all I need. So at the end of the day, it saves you quite a lot of money on hygiene products too. I personally prefer using black jersey whenever I'm making panties with period option, just for the convenience in case of any discoloration. Now normally whenever I'm wearing period panties, when I take them off, I soak them in cold water so that everything dissolves, and then I put them in the wash, and once they have been washed, they're perfectly clean. But one time I didn't have enough wash and something dried on, and when I washed them, the fabric inside was discolored. So later I used some like stain agent on that and everything came out, but I don't care for that. I think if it's just discoloration, the panties are still clean. It's just the fabric is just discolored. So whenever I'm using black fabric for the gusset, I don't have to worry about that, but that's just my personal preference. Anyway, that's gonna be it for today. I hope that you guys enjoyed today's tutorial. Don't forget to check out the sewing pattern, and I will also try to look for where I bought the terry cloth with a thin layer of polyurethane, and if I find the link, then I'll link the place where I bought the fabric down below, because that might help you to look for something similar in your area. So thank you all so much for watching. I wish you a wonderful day. God bless you, and see you soon. Bye.